disabled people have to be more wary because society tends to like view us as easy targets, especially in relationships, especially people who don't want relationships but are just looking to get something that's like not exactly so wholesome from you. I mean, I think you have to just be quite aware on your first date or first few dates of how people react to your disability. And I think you just should have like no shame. I'm Russian, I'm pretty cutthroat, as you said earlier.
Stephanie Renberg, welcome to the See-Through podcast.
Hello, hi, thank you for having me.
You're talking to me from Los Angeles.
Yes, I am.
And you're new there, right?
Yep. It's almost, what's today, Wednesday? On Friday, it'll be exactly 1 month.
Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll probably get into that whole move, at some point in this episode, but I just wanted to set up for everyone listening what this episode's theme is. Mm-hmm. Valentine's Day is coming up. So I thought it'd be fun to bring you on and kind of discuss, dating, what's it like dating as someone who's visually impaired,
It's different.
The ins and outs of, when it comes to online dating, meeting in person, all that fun stuff, meeting people in real life, that's always weird, huh? So that's kind of the mission of this episode. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it because I know based off of some of your content that I've seen that you're super familiar on this topic.
It's just a hot topic. It's always trending. So
yeah,
whenever I have videos like, do really well, I tend to kind of like make series out of them, or at least like repeat the hook, like the opening line of the video. And so, yeah, the first time I did the red flags dating as a blind person, it got so much attention. I did it again. And now like every time I do a video with that hook, it gets like at least 100,000 views.
Yeah.
So people like to talk about dating.
Yeah, your content's killing it.
Thanks.
Your content's killing it. It's going like some of your videos have got millions of views. And
yeah,
I've been following your videos for a while.
Thanks.
So it's cool to finally chat with you somewhat in person.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. It's very strange doing this remote thing. It always feels weird. Never gets normal, but yeah, let's get into it. But before we start, I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Okay. So I'm Stephanie Renberg. I am a blind content creator. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, because they make you, YouTube, and technically I'm on Threads, I guess. But yeah, I'm a blind content creator. I just moved to Los Angeles because I love content creating, but like a big passion and dream of mine is to like break into the entertainment industry. I love acting and I love singing. So now I'm here in Los Angeles and we're going to actually have a chance to like pursue that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see. It just, I mean, I've been here for a whole month. It already feels like I haven't done too much. Like I've done so much, but I haven't done enough. Like, it's been a month of kind of setting up my home and everything. But now I'm like really starting to get rolling again with like content and then really want to start getting into like auditions and whatnot.
Yeah, you're going for it. And that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm always pumped for people who are going for it.
Oh, yeah. And it's nice because, because I started with content creating and you're able to like build your online business with that. So it's much less stressful. Like a lot of people, I think, move to LA and they like depend on LA to be their income. Like they depend on making it in like acting or singing or whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And so it's so much stress. And, if they don't make it, then they're just kind of like screwed essentially. And so it's really nice to be able to like already have an established like online business so I can continue with the content creating and like stress-free like pursue the other stuff,
That's smart. Yeah, you got a good system there. Yeah, so you're in LA. We were talking briefly before I hit record. You said that you are there and you are currently seeing someone, you are dating someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I moved here with my boyfriend. He is the one that drove, obviously. So we came from Northern Virginia, like right outside of Washington, D.C. It was a 5-day drive. It was a lot with 2 dogs in the car. But yeah, I came here with my boyfriend and he's like He's also a content creator, but he's in the fitness industry. So we're both like doing the influencer vibes.
Wow. Yeah, that's perfect kind of setup because, you know, in this episode, I wanted to explore and give people who are single. That's kind of who I wanted to help the most in this episode, because you have found someone, you know, I myself, I'm married. So it's like we have found people and we both have experience, you know, dating, and, you know, I've been on dating apps, you know, and have had, you know, past relationships. But, you know, I wanted to pick your brain, get the female's perspective on it, because I imagine it's a lot different for a woman to, in what she experiences and the conversations that she goes through. And maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But, you know, where should we start? You know, what advice would you give anyone who's single, who is, you know, visually impaired or disabled, if they're on the market, they're on the dating market? What advice would you give them?
I mean, I think my advice for dating is always like just to be yourself, which is kind of an obvious one, but I feel like a lot of people don't stick to it. Like, people always talk about being so nervous on first dates and whatnot. And I'm like, why are you nervous? Like, if you're yourself, if you just like try to have a good time and you're yourself, even if you get rejected or you reject them, like in the end, like you don't want to pursue a relationship not being you. So, I mean, I think just people need to relax and be themselves. And just another important thing is like to remember that it's not just like I think a lot of people go on dates thinking like, will they like me? Like, will I be enough kind of thing? And it's like, you got to remember that you're also like paying attention to the other person. Like, do you like them enough? Like, are they good enough for you kind of thing? Like, it's not just like, I think on the female side, we're very naturally like people pleaser kind of attitude. And so I think that's difficult with women, that like they go on dates and they kind of like are very focused on like, will the guy like me? And I'm like, it's like the other way around too, you know? So I think. Yeah,
it's a two-way street.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly. And I feel like I remember when I was younger and I was in a relationship and I finally had that moment where it clicked with me, where I was kind of like, well, if you can't be yourself all the time with the person you're dating, then it's not going to last. Like, why would you want to be with someone long-term that you can't be yourself around? So I think it's just good to. Yeah. I take it a little to an extreme though, I gotta say.
What do you mean by that?
Like, I feel like, so when I started dating my current boyfriend, I had just gotten out of a really long-term on and off relationship with the person I was seeing in college. And so it was just like kind of, I wasn't expecting the first person that I started like dating to be the person that I actually ended up like having a long-term relationship with. And the guy I'm dating right now, we've been dating for almost like 2.5, 3 years kind of thing. Okay. So pretty long term at this point. But I didn't expect like the first person I saw or the first person I met from being on like a dating app to really be the person that would like, I would continue dating for so long. So yeah, I was just kind of like, I was so beyond not pressured when it came to the first few dates, because I was like, I only went out because my mom was like, you should get out there again. And I was like, no, I need a break from men. She's like, come on, like you need to have fun. So I like got on like the dating app and I went out and I was just so focused on like just having a good time. And I was really not, I'm usually pretty like polite in like beginning situations with people, but with him, not that I was rude, but I'm just saying like, you know, it was like no filters kind of thing. I just like from the get-go, I was very like, well, he's going to see it all, because if he doesn't like it, then great. We're just going to like nip that one in the bud. So he got a lot of me very quickly. And he was fine with it. So I was like, okay, well, we got that out of the way, I guess. Yeah. So
he passed the test.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually say, when I give people advice, that you usually meet someone when you're not like actively looking, when you're not like trying super hard.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you know, in terms of, you know, you have Stargardt's, and are you considered legally blind?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I've been legally blind 2200. since I was like around a freshman in high school. So when I was 14, I'm 26 right now. So I've been well past legally blind for like over 10 years now. And I don't even know what I am now. Like, you know, they're always like, you should go to the eye doctor once a year. And I'm like, well, it's just getting worse. Like, what? What do I do?
No, I feel you there.
Yeah. So I'm just like, with me, I'm like, I don't even know what my visual acuity is. I think it's around like 2,800. But I actually don't even know how they really measure it when it gets that bad. I feel like you have to go through like pretty specialized testing when it gets that bad. Because 2,200 is the top of the vision chart. That's the big E. So like, I'm not even sure how, but yeah. So I'm around 2,800.
So you can still see the big E.
Yeah, I guess.
If they changed it to a different letter, would you know?
I don't think, 2,200 is the big E, and I'm well beyond 2,200. So I actually don't know if I would if they changed it, because they never change it. It's always an E. So
yeah.
When you
that's what I was saying. If they changed the letter, you'd be like E.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it is to the point where I can still, like, if there's enormous letters for like a store sign or something, and I'm right there, like, I mean, even like in the car, like next to the sidewalk, I can like maybe read some of the letters. So like, yeah, I can still definitely read if it's enormous. But I've gotten to the point where reading is such a hassle, and it's definitely affects like headaches and whatnot, that I mostly listen to what I'm reading now. So. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I was asking because, you know, people are very visual creatures, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, pursuing like, you know, romantic relationships. How has being, you know, legally blind in high school, how has that affected like the type of person you're attracted to, or the type of people who, you know, are attracted to you? Has being legally blind impacted, you know, how you perceive yourself and others, and how people perceive you in terms of a potential like dating partner?
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like I've always been more like personality driven when it comes to like who I'm attracted to. I definitely like good looking people. I mean, the guy I'm dating right now is a fitness influencer, so obviously he's like very good looking.
Nice.
But I would say when it comes to, you know, if we were like rating people like 1 to 10 on like attractive scale, like I've dated people all along that scale. I'm very like personality driven. I have to like vibe correctly with somebody. So for me, like I would say I can still, so like when I'm next to somebody, and I mean like physically next to somebody, I have a pretty good understanding of, you know, obviously like height, like I can tell how big this person is. It's very blurry, but like obviously I have an understanding of how tall the person is. And then to an extent, like the body shape. The only thing I can't really get usually right off the bat is somebody's face. That's really difficult because I have to be like in your face to be able to see your face. And I think that's why I really like dating apps, because you have pictures of people and I can use, you know, technology. I actually never even use my phone for dating apps. I always use my iPad because it's a bigger screen, so I can like blow up their face that much more to see them. So, yeah, with dating apps, like I'm definitely like paying attention to appearances and whatnot. As well, but in person, it's more about the vibe. I'm very vibe centered. Like, I don't know, as I've lost my vision, I feel like I've just become way more in tune to people's vibes. And I'm also big into science. I mean, I have a Bachelor of Science, and I loved learning that like people actually like, we have our electromagnetic fields like constantly emitting from us as people. So you actually, I mean, like vibes are a real thing. Vibrations are a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think people who are blind are very good at picking, or I assume like if they put in the effort and they pay attention, we're very good at like picking up on people's vibes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes, you know, when it's online, you know, with dating apps, you're only getting pictures, you're only getting like descriptions, but you're not really able to pick up on the vibe.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Like, let's say you get a match on a dating app, and then you go to meet in real life. You know, how is that process? Be like, do the people you go on dates with in the past, were they aware that you were legally blind, or is that something you would tell them like in person? Or
I like never
did you
tell
put
that.
it on like your bio or anything like that?
No, I'm never upfront with that. Well, I guess, cause like, I don't know. I like to get to know people. And I think there's a lot of just misconceptions and stereotypes and ignorance around blindness and disabilities in general. So it's not really something like I advertise up front, which I know some people are like, no, like be proud. And I'm like, I am. But like some people will just from knowing like you have a disability or visual impairment will be nasty to you up front. And it's like, I just don't want to like, I deserve more than to deal with that. So I usually, you know, once I kind of develop some sort of trust, which obviously it doesn't have to be like a lot between a person, but have picked up enough on their vibe if they're like, you know, if I feel safe enough to kind of like open up about that. But just talking about like, you made me think. So I have gone on first dates from dating apps, and literally the person opened their mouth, like said hello, and I just immediately knew it was going absolutely nowhere.
Oh, dang.
I am.
Was it? What, they have like a super deep voice or something?
No, just people. I don't know. Have you not? To me, I feel like you can tell a lot from somebody's voice, and I just think maybe I'm a super analytical person. I also think I'm slightly like on the autism spectrum. Not that that's ever been diagnosed, but like just from learning about autism from other creators. Because I'm not like good with social constructs and whatnot. So my whole life I've just been studying people. And then when the blindness kicked in, I, you know, obviously study voices even more. And it's not like you hear a voice and you're like, okay, I know everything about this person. But what I can tell from a voice is whether I'm going to get along with that person. Like, and I'm usually correct about it.
What's something about the voice that you are looking for specifically?
So I think with voices, you can actually distinguish pretty well, like the level of character a person has. And to me, that's very important because obviously I think anybody who's visually impaired or disabled has at least a little bit of character. I mean, you can't go through like what we go through without having developed as a person. I think that's the main thing for me with voices. I can hear the character, and I can hear, I don't know, people just kind of like pick up tones and phrasing and just, it's hard to describe, but like based on whom they've been around in their life, like the kind of people they hang out with. And that was kind of more relevant in high school. Now people are like, as an adult, people are not really like clicking as hard. But like, I feel like when you were younger, you could hear just from someone's voice, like what kind of clique they were a part of, you know, who were they hanging out with?
Oh, okay. So you're attaching like, is it like overly confident? Is it too passive?
Yeah.
Is
this the party
judgmental?
boy? Is this the nerdy boy? Is it, you know, like, I don't know. I think you can tell a lot from a voice. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I've gone on dates where as soon as they open their mouth, and
you're cutthroat.
Well, see, but I'm not. And that's the problem, because I've asked people this on like my channels before, like, what would you do in this situation? Should you just be like, nope, this isn't going to work. Goodbye. Or should you just like go through get through the first date? And I usually just am like, okay, I'm going to have my first date with this person. I'm going to give it a chance because, you know, you could always be wrong. I could always be wrong. Yeah. And, you know, just try to have the best time that I can. That's what I usually do. But I have a lot of people who are like, no, you should just like, for you and the other person's sake, just be like, oh, nope, this is not going to work. Bye-bye.
Oh, dang. What kind of, I'm almost afraid to ask, but what kind of vibe do you get from my voice? You
have a really cool voice. I've heard your voice, like, he's like,
that's good.
I've heard your voice before, but I've never heard it just like, you know, for an extended period of time, just like talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you just seem like a chill person to me. I have good vibes from your voice.
Good. I was just checking, making sure I passed the voice test.
I mean, like I said, I think most like disabled people, visually impaired people pass my voice test because I think in general we have a really good community. I think the only time that's not true is for people in our community that maybe haven't like worked through their disability yet. And that's the only time I've ever met people who maybe aren't like quite there yet, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, I feel you on that. Mm-hmm. So let's say they passed the voice test and now you're into discussions. Mm-hmm. When do you bring up, your vision, or do you not bring it up on the first date? Is it like a second or third? Or, I mean, I would imagine that it might come up even naturally if maybe you have to look at a menu a certain way, or
I'm very
wherever you're at.
I'm way too sneaky about it. I need to like.
You're sneaky.
Well, for me, it's not too obvious, and I do think like that I'm legally blind.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more and more obvious, but I still think it's at the point where someone's just kind of like, oh, okay, she kind of has something going on with her eyes. That's kind of it. Like,
Okay.
But usually with dates, I'm pretty like with the boyfriend I have now, we like met at a bar, and so I just arrived early so that I didn't have to find him.
You met naturally.
Oh, no. Like we met on a dating app, but like we met in person at a bar.
I was going to say, you have like the old school way of meeting someone.
Yeah. Actually,
we met at a bar.
He's actually the first. Yeah. He's actually the first like relationship I've had that I met like through a dating app. Like I've met other people through dating apps, but never ended up having like a relationship with them. Yeah.
Well, I met my wife via Hinge, that dating app.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was on Tinder as well and Bumble for a bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a wild. It's like the wild. It's hard to say wild west out there.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because obviously, like some people are dedicated to finding someone, and there's lots of people just casually on the app, and so but for me, so like we met just like when I brought up my eyesight, we met at a bar and I got there early, so like I got there 15 minutes early and I was just standing by the door, and I like somewhat recognized him, but it's pretty easy like when you have Stargate, like basically if someone walks in and they stop it right in front of you and kind of like stare, and plus usually if they're trying to recognize you from a dating app, they'll say your name. So he like walked in, stopped in front of me, was like Stephanie, and then I just like said his name back, and that's how like we found each other, and then we went to our seats. And usually when I go to restaurants, I hate menus. I hate dealing with menus. So if it's a place that I don't plan on returning to, I just always ask like waiters like what their recommendation is. So I don't even have to deal with menu. And that's not something like that I'm trying to like hide from someone, but it's just, I don't even like dealing with menus. It
could be a little trick though to hide something.
Yeah, no, yeah, it could. But it's just like easier. Like it's just, if I really want to, like, I'll go online beforehand and find the menu. I don't like dealing with menus like when I'm there. But actually when we were on our first date, he did see my Instagram. Like we started talking about content creating pretty early on. And so I showed him my Instagram, and I was only at like 4,000 followers on Instagram at the time, which is pretty wild. It was like 2.5 years ago. And so in my bio, it was like visually impaired or blind, whatever I said. So I was like, when I gave him my Instagram, I was like, well, I guess he's going to find out right now.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, he didn't even notice it, apparently, when we talked about it later on. He just like skipped the bio, went straight to the posts. And back then I wasn't really like posting about blindness that much. Or I guess
classic guy there.
Yeah. He just went straight to looking at the photos and whatnot. And then I think he said only like a week or a couple weeks later, did he actually see one of my... I don't know if I was talking about blindness on my page at that point. I might have. I guess I started. So it was like, I thought actually from the beginning he already knew. because he saw my Instagram and he did not. So that was a little different. Usually it takes me a while though. I'm pretty nervous just because that's still like hard for me to tell people in person that are new to me, because I've definitely had a lot of bad experiences with people in the past, like about my visual impairment. So I'm still like, that's something I'm still working on.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Were those bad experiences, they weren't on dates, they were just people in passing?
Yeah, not on dates. I don't think on dates really. I mean, maybe I've had bad experiences, but it's not really someone intentionally trying to make me feel bad if it was a bad experience on a date. It's just someone like saying something and kind of like out of not knowing said something not that great. But yeah, no. So when it comes to when do I open that can of worms, I'm still pretty hesitant about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It took me like probably a couple months into dating my now wife before I explained to her it, and I like you, I was sneaky. I would like, I can hide it really well.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have enough vision that I can be sneaky,
right?
Or play it off in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was always a major concern of mine. Like whenever I was diagnosed with RP, was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to impact, meeting people later on, or like,
right.
Do you think having a disability or, being legally blind, do you think that it impacts people in the dating scene more than, someone who is like an able-bodied person?
Yeah. Well, I mean, disabilities very heavily impact people's like self-esteem, and that's not really people's fault. That's more society's fault. It's just such a strong negative connotation associated with disabilities, and such a lack of awareness and education that it's terrifying, like talking to other people about it, because they know nothing. And when people don't know something about something, well, like if you're a kid and you don't know something, usually they're pretty open. Like that's okay. You're learning new things all the time as a kid. Mm-hmm. When adults learn something new and they don't know about it, usually they automatically get uncomfortable. People respond in very different ways to when they get uncomfortable about not knowing something. And some people will like pull in and will not really say much. They just will have this very awkward vibe and not really know what to do with themselves, because they're like, I've never been in this situation. I don't know what to do with myself. They get very self-conscious, which makes you very self-conscious. Some people will go like more outward and in like a negative way. And that's usually the people who have their own issues, will kind of like target that as even if they don't know that's an insecurity of yours, since they know like in society there's like a negative connotation. I've definitely had people who like as soon as they find out I'm blind, they're like cracking jokes about it all the time. They're trying to like put me on the spot kind of thing. And in the beginning you think like, oh my gosh, that's me, that's bad. I'm like, my disability is bad. And then you grow up and you learn like, no, those people just have their own like issues and they're projecting that on you. So yeah, I definitely think we're talking about dating. I'm a really good talker. So like, I gotta find my way back to what we were talking about. But with dating, I think especially if you haven't worked through your disability yet, like you are not anywhere near acceptance, you're still in like that beginning phase of denial or grief, or I think you definitely go through those 5 stages with disabilities. I think it really impacts your self-esteem, which really impacts like your standards when it comes to dating. And I think that's how it affected me a lot. Like in the beginning of my dating life, like in high school, when you first start getting out there, and I was still way far away from like the acceptance stage. I definitely had like very minimal standards and put a lot of pressure on myself, and anything like the other person, they could do no wrong, like I was the only person that could do wrong kind of thing. So I think it definitely impacts people with disabilities.
When you say they could do no wrong, are you meaning that since you were the one with a visual impairment, that you were almost like, I'll take what I can get kind of thing? Like, this is, at least I have somebody type of mentality, or is it something different than that?
Like, not quite that, but more of just like, I was easily assuming that I would be the one that was in the wrong. And that also like ties into that whole like maybe autism, or maybe I'm just bad with societal constructs and whatnot. But like, since growing up, you know, I kind of felt like I was always the one like saying inappropriate things. I was the one doing something inappropriate. I'm also just a very like big person from a very like big family. So I think that was also it. I'm very comfortable with like putting myself out there. And so you get shot down a lot more, obviously, like the more you put yourself out there. So I would say like, not really like, oh, I'll take what I can get. But once I got someone that I liked, basically I would assume if we ever had a bad conversation or there was some tension, I would assume like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like, it was never really in the beginning, like, what are they like? It wasn't like, they could also be doing something wrong, which usually that's what it is. It takes two to tango, you know, like it's usually not so one-sided. But for me, I was just kind of like always assuming it was me kind of thing.
I was asking that because I feel like, and this is just a theory, but there's like a preconception of people who see someone with a disability or someone who is in the blindness community, and they assume that that person should just date anyone that's interested in them because they're lucky to have someone interested in them. Yep. And it almost, they try to like remove the person's like power to make a choice and be selective. It's almost like people in the disability community can't have a preference in who they want to date, that they should be more just like take whoever is open to dating them. Yeah, no, and that's like just the internalized ableism that the average person doesn't realize they have. I mean, they think like, oh, well, I'm me, I'm able-bodied, and you're visually impaired, so obviously I am by definition better than you because I have the abilities you don't. And then it's kind of like you have to take them back and be like, no, you have better eyesight than me. Who you are as a person is not distinguished by your disability. So I've definitely, that's one of the things that definitely like comes up in my comments whenever I have my red flags videos. Cause I think the first one I ever did, the second one I did was just how I constantly get this comment, and a lot of blind girls get this comment. And I did ask in my Discord server, and like, I asked if any of the guys in there had gotten this comment, and they said they do. But people are constantly commenting like, oh, you're blind, like, I guess that means I have a shot. Like, you know, people make the joke like, oh, I'm ugly, so like maybe I can actually date you kind of thing because you're blind. And so I made a video just saying like, oh, well, you like making this joke is really just saying like that you think you assume I have no standards when it comes to physical appearance, which like, no, I'm allowed to have any standards I want. It doesn't matter that I'm blind. Like, you can still have, I'm sure there are blind people out there who have very high standards when it comes to physical appearance. I mean, like, it's just a personal choice. Like, what is people have a really hard time separating a disability from a person. Like, it's completely different. Like, it doesn't, you know. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I was going to ask you that, but you just answered it. That I bet there's men out there who think, you know, who are you're way out of their league, yet they think they could, you know, have a shot with you because they're like, oh, well, she can't see me. Yeah. You know, and that's just, and in a way there's something kind of sweet to that, but and also in a way there's something really like twisted and like dark about that as well. Yeah. It's like, it's a kind of a weird thing to analyze. Yeah, usually like the way I said, because I think I got so many negative comments on that one video, I even made a follow-up response, and I was like, really what I'm saying is like, if that's the first thing, like if that's your first thought to say, like comment on like, oh, you're blind, like, so I guess I have a shot, you know, that's usually an indication of just like, that's the tip of an iceberg that goes much deeper.
which I'm really into psychology, so I overanalyze everything. But like, if you listen to what people say, how they phrase things, specifically what comes to their mind first in conversation or first depending on a topic, it's very telling on like what's going on in their mind. And usually if that's, if the first thing they think to do is like say that, usually there's a lot of insecurities coming with them, which unfortunately then translates into probably a lot of ableistic like tendencies if you were to be in a relationship with them. And that's just something I've have through experience. It's not just like something I've made up. Like we have red flags because we've experienced what kind of people they turn into,
Yeah. Speaking of red flags, you said you made a video about red flags. Can you list some of those?
When people kind of bring up your disability and your visual impairment a lot, like there are some people who like in the beginning of a relationship will bring it up a lot from like purely a place of curiosity and like wanting to learn. And there are some people who will bring it up a lot in like not in a curious way, like not in like, oh, like how do you do this? How can you do this? But, they'll come up and they'll see you doing like using assistive technology and they'll just be like, wow, you work so hard. I could never do what you do. And like they kind of, the constant commentary that's more like putting you down. That's something I've experienced that like I now pick up on as a red flag because
they use it as like a talking point, as like an opportunity to maybe talk to you. Well, but then they take it too far.
Well, as an opportunity, kind of like put you down, almost like as a way to point out your flaws. Like it's not bringing up your disability as a way of curiosity or learning more about you. They'll kind of continuously take it as an opportunity to point out your flaws. And that's also like just them being insecure and looking for a way to like project their own issues, which is just most of the time what's going wrong with people in relationships. But that's like one red flag I've experienced, like people who like to bring it up a lot immediately, but in a way of like, let me point out your flaws rather than let me learn about like this disability. I have one, and this isn't like really like a red flag that like comes up immediately. I've definitely been in a relationship with at least one person who used my visual impairment, my disability, to kind of like gaslight me. I made that a video too. And it's kind of like when somebody who's very smart figures out, I guess somebody who's not very smart can think of this too. But if somebody is with you and they notice that your disability is like a point of insecurity, which at that point in my life it was. It's much less now. I'm not really that insecure about it. Like I still have stuff I'm working on, like I said earlier in this video, like I'm still working on like...
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. But like back when it was seriously like I was nowhere near like accepting and being okay with it. I was in a relationship where someone very easily like knew this was a point of insecurity for me. And so what he kind of started doing is if we'd ever get in a disagreement and I didn't like something that he did, he would somehow find a way to push the conversation about my disability. So then immediately I was feeling like, okay, wait, well, have I done something wrong? Because now he's talking about my disability. Like, how have I inconvenienced him? So like, for example, like one time we had like gone ice skating and we were driving there. It was a long drive. And I don't remember something had set him off. And he was just literally screaming at me in the car the whole way there and was like driving quite recklessly. I was very uncomfortable in the car. And so later that day or the next day, like that was a point of conversation. And basically his response to me saying like, you cannot treat me that way. You cannot just like yell at me for no reason. Or you can't really yell at me in general, but definitely with no reason. His response to that was, you cannot drive. I had to drive you 40 minutes to get to ice skating. And like, this is how you treat me. Like you have no appreciation for the fact that I have to drive you places. And so immediately he took it to, oh, let me think what happened last night. How can I turn this around about her disability and make her feel bad so she forgets that I did something wrong? And it worked. I literally like immediately forgot what I was talking about because he brought up a point of insecurity in myself. And I was like, it makes you question yourself. and question your reality, which is like what gaslighting is. And immediately I forgot. And literally only years later, when I was content creating, thinking of like red flags and whatnot, did I remember the situation. I was like, oh my gosh, like that conversation ended after that. We never talked about how he treated me after that, like again, because all I thought was, oh man, like, yeah, why am I getting upset about things when like he drove me all the way to go ice skating like 40 minutes away. So that's another red flag I've experienced. People who like, I mean, I just explained it all, but yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say it's almost like they hold it over your head. They almost make you feel like you're a burden, which is like something I've talked about in the past is like, to me, that's like the worst kind of emotion you can bring out of someone who has a disability, is to make them feel like they're a burden.
No, that is like absolutely the worst.
It's like the absolute worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
So, you know,
because we try so hard to do everything independently. So when somebody like gets on your case about something that you have no choice other than to rely on them for, it hurts like a lot. So. Yeah.
Or they want like, obviously you're thankful that when people help and whatnot, and you want to thank them, but you also don't want to feel like you want to be walking on your tiptoes and make sure you say thanks for everything they do, or like, you know, thank you so much, like, for driving me. Yeah. It's like, you know, with or without sight, you would still like get driven places.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know, it's like you can't thank somebody for everything, you know, just because you have, you know, a visual impairment or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a tightrope, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of that feeling. Yeah. I think you put that very eloquently. Yeah, those are great red flags, because I think people need to remind themselves, like, kind of going back to what you talked about in the beginning, it's like a two-way street where you can have standards, you know, you can have physical preferences, even as someone who's legally blind, and you can have like places where you draw the line, and like, I will allow this, I will not allow that.
Right.
And I think some people let, you know, like you mentioned, their self-esteems drop due to their disability, and then they put up with more.
Yep. Yeah. And the person they're with realizes that.
Or people take advantage of it.
Exactly. Yeah. People figure it out, and they're like, oh, well, now I can do whatever I want because you rely on me for XYZ kind of thing. So yeah. I'm trying to think of other red flags. Those are two big ones. I don't know how many of those videos I've made.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm curious about this, because I've interviewed another content creator. Her name's Chelsea Bear. You might be familiar with her, but you know, she has cerebral palsy.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes she uses like a mobility scooter. And she mentioned that she was on a date and like tripped, you know, and it kind of like caused like a scene at the date, and then the guy kind of got not turned off by it, but like it made him feel uncomfortable, and then he basically kind of shied away from it, you know. You know, like I've tripped, you know, on dates and things like that, not seeing something, and then you want to feel like Mr. Cool masculine guy, like, oh, you can't trip in front of people, you know. But like, you know, instances like that are going to happen that are more like visibly, you know, in terms of being sneaky. You can't like hide from certain things, like a mobility scooter, or let's say you're a cane user, and you need to use a cane. Do you have any advice for people who, you know, their disabilities are not quite as easy to maybe disguise if they're going on a date?
I think with that, I think dating apps are definitely helpful, so that people can see pictures of you with your mobility aid. Because I think with that case, like just in general, disabled people have to be more wary, because society tends to like view us as easy targets, especially in relationships. Especially people who don't want relationships but are just looking to get something that's like not exactly so wholesome from you. And so I think when it comes to having like a visible disability, I think you just have to have pretty high awareness and standards from the beginning. Like, and that's going to take practice. You're going to have to go on a few dates to figure out like what the red flags are. But like what you just said with that guy who basically got triggered by her just like existing. I think those are the kind of moments where you're going to have to learn like, okay, well, this person's clearly not evolved enough to be with me. Like, and so, I mean, I think just, I'm Russian, I'm pretty cutthroat, as you said earlier, but like, if somebody's not, you know, obviously like people don't know much about it because there's a lack of awareness in society, but if it's to the extent where they're going to be treating you poorly, then you just have to nip that in the bud. I mean, I think you have to just be quite aware on your first date or first few dates of how people react to your disability. And I think you just should have like no shame in ending any further contact communication with the person if they're showing any red flags or, you know, like what that one dude did. I mean, I think you should just be comfortable with like, okay, it's not the person for me. Move on. Like that would be my advice, I think. Because when you're sneaky, it's harder. Well, like when you have an invisible disability, it is a little harder then. You have to like maybe wait a little longer to figure out, which is like, there's just so many pros and cons with invisible disabilities versus visible disabilities. Because with invisible, like you have less pressure of like first meeting someone because they won't like know right off the bat. But also, if they don't know right off the bat, you don't know how they're going to react. Whereas if you have a visible disability, you know how someone's going to react. You can kind of like get through that quickly. Or maybe not quickly, but like, you know, it's kind of like jump into the cold pool. Like you're going for it. Like, let's see what happens. It might be bad, but that'll be good because then we'll just move on kind of thing.
Yeah. I think you're right in terms of you'd want to post pictures probably with your aid, you know, with your cane or, and then social media is a super helpful tool, you know, have a link to your social media and have some content or pictures of you, you know, being yourself, you know, using whatever you use or however you operate. And then that way people can do their due diligence before you know, the date, and then they can either come up with some sort of excuse if they're not comfortable with it beforehand, you know, because, I don't know if I would advise people to hide it and then
whip it out.
It almost could feel like it almost feels like, it almost feels like you might be trying to like trick them or something.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think it's always up to the person, but agreed. Like if you have one in real life and you don't show it in your pictures and you pull it out first date, like I think some people that might have too strong of a reaction. And that's kind of why I'm also hesitant with disclosing my disability to like new people. I'm very into like the safety of disabled people. And I think if you were not showing off your mobility aid and then all of a sudden you had it on the first date, I would be concerned for your like well-being and your happiness because someone could have a way too strong of a reaction. You know, like if they were the kind of person that if they saw that and they instantly like were like, nope, and like would swipe left or whatever on you, then you don't want to go on a date with that person. Like, you know, you just like, it's better. I would think it would be better to like dismiss them before you meet them kind of thing. I don't think anyone should think like, well, maybe they'll meet and they'll love me, which is true. But if that's how strongly they're reacting, then they have things they need to work through with themselves before they're ready for you.
Yeah, I agree. I've had someone give me advice. Justin Bishop, he's a blind skateboarder.
I know him for sure. Yeah.
He gave me advice. He said, don't even think about dating basically until you are mentally do not care about your disability really anymore. Where it's not really even like a big deal for you anymore. He's like, if your disability is still like a huge major deal to you and you haven't really wrapped your mind around it, he says, he said, I would just wait until you feel more comfortable. And, you know, that's a pretty strong approach, but you know, there's different strokes for different folks. You know, there's a lot of different approaches to dating.
Have you seen recently, like literally like this week, people were posting a conversation in Blind Talk kind of about like whether everyone in the blind community should like carry a cane, whether they need it or not, like for mobility?
Oh, just to kind of be, so you can be identified as visually impaired.
Yeah. Did you see any of those videos?
I haven't seen none of that. No.
It was like a conversation I saw this week that I found pretty interesting. That people on Blind Talk were talking like, so if you don't need a white cane for mobility purposes, should you still carry it around so that anybody in public can identify you? And some people were like saying that, like, yeah, they think it's their opinion that everybody who's legally blind or beyond should like carry a white cane just so for like safety purposes, essentially. And that can like translate into dating and whatnot. And I thought it was like really interesting when I heard that, because I was like, because I don't personally like carry a cane for identification purposes, but I can definitely see like where they're coming from with that. And that's kind of similar to what Justin's saying, like, should you be comfortable with yourself before you start dating? Should you like should all the cards be on the table before you start dating? But I just kind of think it's like up to people's preference. I feel like for carrying a cane, sorry, I keep going back and forth, but like for carrying a white cane, I feel like it should be up to people, but I understand that like we're not in a perfect society and there's lots of hazards with not easily identifying someone as legally blind. And I feel like if we were in a society that was fully educated, there would be absolutely no need, because if somebody saw you reading the Braille on a bathroom sign or getting close to a menu or something, they should be automatically, if they're an adult, they should be able to automatically identify, oh, this is somebody who has a visual impairment, because not all of them carry white canes. But we live in a society where almost nobody knows that. So I definitely can like see where people are like saying like, oh, you should carry a white cane for identification purposes, just so you can feel safer. So you can not get argued with if you're trying to get assistance or, ADA compliance somewhere. But I think it's up to the person. And I think I feel the same way when it comes to like Justin's advice for not starting dating until you've fully accepted and dealt with your disability. And for me, I think that's because like people usually start dating in high school, and I don't think anybody in high school has fully accepted just who they are in general. I don't think even able-bodied people are. So to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, ideally it'd be great if you were fully like happy with your disability, but people in high school aren't fully happy with themselves and they're able-bodied. So like, I'm not going to say they can't date or that we can't date if they can date kind of thing.
I think if I were to take Justin's advice, I would say it's more for people in their later years, maybe their late 20s, early 30s, and they're maybe looking, for something more serious or whatnot. That advice would probably work better. But going off of that, as a woman, you might feel vulnerable dating because you're putting yourself in situations with strangers sometimes, that you met online. Do you ever feel like, do you have to factor in, your star guards when it comes to your safety about like, where do you pick a place to go on a date? Do you get in a car with somebody, that type of thing? Yeah.
Well, when I was young, my dad was in the military. So I lived overseas, like in a city. I lived in Ankara, Turkey. Okay. Starting from age 7. So I kind of like grew up very like with safety in mind as an individual from like a very early age. Like you can't grow up in a city and not like start learning about how to be safe on the streets and whatnot. So I think I am very, sometimes I'm a little too reckless about it, but no, I like whenever I meet people on first dates, it's always in a public location. And for first dates, I always Uber. Like I'm never gonna like ask somebody I've never met to come pick me up and take me to a place kind of thing. And then for women who are like legally blind or visually impaired, obviously I would say if you're like ever drinking, you have to hold your drink with you or get something with a lid or a cap to always be safe about that. Cause when you're blind, obviously people can very easily like take advantage of you. So I think safety is a big thing. So just be cautious and smart on first dates, I think. There's lots of ways to do that, but agreed.
I just was curious. I figured that might be something that, people don't think about much, or at least,
Yeah.
the sighted community or.
Well, I did actually one time like see a video about this girl on Blind Talk who was upset because she was going to go on a first date with somebody that she met through a dating app. And she was like, well, I'm visually impaired. I can't drive. So can you pick me up to take us to the first date? And the guy like just essentially either refused or was arguing with her that he shouldn't have to do that kind of thing. And I'm kind of like, you should Uber. You should get like a parent to drive you. You should get a friend to drive you or something. You definitely should.
Yeah.
Also, like, aside from just the safety factor, like, I try not to put the responsibility of driving me on somebody like I've never met before kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually interesting when I saw that. I was like, no, you should not be getting in the car with somebody you've never met. Like,
yeah. 1000%.
Yeah. Which is kind of how like, but I can see how like she seemed younger. So I can see how somebody who's younger can kind of like forget that because you have to be driven all the time. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, clearly like I can't drive. So you would be driving me in this situation. But it's like, no, you have to find a way to be safe about it. And like as a blind person in LA, I've definitely been considering more of the safety factor. I don't really like go outside at night that much. I mean, like I have a dog, so to let her out, I have to go outside at night, but you stay within your street kind of thing. Like don't go very far. I'm not trying to put myself in bad situations. I've had enough trauma. I don't need to create more.
Your laugh there was kind of funny because you're talking about trauma, but that's how it goes with trauma. Sometimes it's creates a sense of humor.
You're funny now, kind of thing. Yeah, that viral sound that was like, have you been through trauma? Congratulations, you have like sarcasm now.
That's so true. Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Well, I made a video.
Like
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it makes your sense of humor like. You're able to kind of find darker humor funny and not take everything. You're not as sensitive in a weird way. You would think you would be more sensitive, but in a way you're not. Right.
You're a little more desensitized because of you've seen the darker side. So like
exactly.
Because there's so many people who are like, oh, you're blind. God, I can't imagine. They think of blind people and they know nothing about them because they don't even want to think about it. They don't want to think about that possibility. They don't want to even like recognize that could happen to them because they're not ready for that. And those are the kind of people that I'm like, okay, you haven't been through much. If you're not even willing to sit and think about it, like while I'm living it. I was going to say something about the, I made a video once that was like how to accept your disability. And that was my advice. I was like, I think the first thing you should do is learn how to be lighthearted enough about your disability to like laugh about it. I think that's step one. I think that's like learning to joke about it seems easier than like even talking about it at first. So to me, at least.
Well, I feel like, that's a great point. I feel like that's a good segue too, because let's say you go on a date and someone does decide to crack a joke, it's really up to you how you process it.
You mean a joke about your disability?
Yeah. It's weird because it's like you don't want to be too sensitive where you can't take a joke, but you also don't want to be like a punching bag for jokes either.
Yeah, it depends on the joke. You have to be able to tell, like, based on the joke, or is this coming from like a good place or not? Because it can be either one. But no, that's actually, I'm like I was saying how I'm not great about disclosing my disability. That's totally something I do. If I'm ever like with somebody I'm interested in, or I'm already in started dating, but I'm with that person and like other friends who clearly know I am blind, I'll be so bad and I'll just start cracking jokes every now and then about my blindness based on like the situation and the context. And my friends will laugh and the other person's kind of sitting there like a little bit with a question mark trying to figure out like the joke that was just made. So I'm pretty bad about making that my segue into teaching people or like disclosing to people that I'm blind.
But I think that's a good method too to get people more comfortable with it, because I feel like if you're the type of person who can't joke about yourself, then the person you're with is going to feel like they're walking on eggshells.
Right.
And it might make conversation stale. It might make it feel like there's like restrictions on what you can discuss and what you can't talk about.
Right.
And I think in terms of like when you're trying to, grow with someone, I think you need to create a space, not to sound corny, like not a safe space, but it's like a space where people feel comfortable and they can talk about things that are on their mind, or, and it's not like, let me not make a joke because, they're going to lose their mind about it or whatever.
Yeah, no, agreed. You definitely you have to be able to talk about it somehow. And also agreed that showing people that you're comfortable enough to talk about it by joking about it is definitely helpful. Then they don't feel so scared to ask about it, because it's hard. I mean, it's hard to talk to anybody about something that could be uncomfortable or potentially traumatic for them. So.
And humor can be the best tool to kind of bring people together and make people feel comfortable. But it can also be a tool to make people feel extremely awkward and uncomfortable. So, like you said, it's all about the joke. What kind of joke was it? And was it warranted? Did they time it right? Did they make the joke too soon, or did they, gain some trust first and whatnot?
That's true. People have actually said in my comments before,
factors.
Did they start joking about your disability too soon, too strong too soon kind of thing? People have said that's a red flag for them. I'm pretty though, I have an older brother, and so growing up I was always just getting into whatever my older brother got into. So I actually started watching South Park when I was literally 9 years old. So when it comes to humor, I think that was actually an issue for me, because I was so desensitized to by South Park and adult humor that I had to learn when were people making jokes that were too much too soon kind of thing. Because I'm definitely the person that will honestly, people need to make more blind person jokes. I haven't come across that many good ones, so we need to work on that.
Yeah, a lot of them are redundant and overused and the same joke over and over again.
I know. I did a video once on blind person jokes, and I tried to find good ones, and I really could not. There was just...
What's the most common one you hear in terms of when people are trying to, when they think they're being slick, but it's something you've heard too many times?
Well, I definitely hear a lot didn't see that one coming kind of thing. I feel this isn't really a joke, with a punchline or anything, but the joke I constantly get in my comments is just people commenting on how I've used words oh, I saw this, I see this, I see what you mean, or, I'll be I'm blind and this is how I watch.
Oh,
blah,
a
blah,
play on words.
Yeah, I get that.
And when it relates to seeing something.
Yes, I get it constantly where people are well, you're blind, so you can't use words that have to do with eyesight. I'm that's not how that works. But I get it on every single video. Every single video, people are trying to restrict my vocabulary. So that's one I get a lot. I feel there's another one I just can't quite think of, but that one constantly people trying to make a joke, and I'm haha.
Another thing, going back to something you said earlier, you mentioned that your boyfriend is a fitness influencer, and you're a content creator. You have some videos go viral, like we've talked about earlier. You have quite a following on social media, which, by the way, go follow Stephanie. I have links in the episode description. And you're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, basically everywhere. And you go to the gym, you make content. It seems like you have a very fulfilling life and you take pride in what you do and who you are. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes you marketable and to use that word. I don't know if that's the best word, but it's
that makes sense.
You have standards, you have things that you're looking for, and you take care of yourself. Do you think that blind people need to, or disabled people need to put in extra work to be the best version of themselves to make them more marketable? Or do you think
marketable, in terms of being a content creator?
anything. Yeah. Content creator, dating,
Okay. So in general,
friend. Do you think that do you think that blind and disabled people have to do more to make themselves seem more like acceptable in society, in terms of like maybe someone else's eyes in terms of dating? Do you think people have to blind people have to put in extra effort? Or do you think that's just something that people should do anyways, and then the right people will come to you based on, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't really phrase it that well.
No, that's okay. Well, so taking one direction of what I think you could be meaning there, I think in general, blind people have to put more into themselves, in general, because having a disability and having a visual impairment, whatever your disability might be, you are essentially forced to deal with personal issues and personal enlightenment that the average person, the average able-bodied person, doesn't have to deal with. That's what I was going back with people who are oh, blind, can't even think about that, can't even talk about that. Those people have never pushed themselves to even to that level of enlightenment and evolving as a person and working on themselves as a person. So I think when you're blind and you're disabled, you are literally forced to learn how to accept and love yourself. You don't get a choice in, clearly you have a choice in whether you pursue that and you could just ignore it and be in the denial phase your entire life. But most people, they don't have to deal with accepting that their value doesn't just come from their abilities until they're old. When you're old and your body is naturally starting to break down, and you naturally start losing vision, or you naturally need a walker, people don't usually have to deal with disabilities until they're near the end of their lives. Whereas disabled people, we have to deal with that from the beginning. And I actually feel with, how there's just the stereotype of the cranky senior citizen, get off my lawn kind of thing. I actually think anybody who's older and is very cynical, there's usually two big reasons. And I think one is regretting doing what they did with their life. They did not really do what they wanted to do. And they're upset that they didn't live their life the way that they truly wanted to. And I think the other part of it is a lot of people become disabled and their bodies start breaking down. And it's the first time they've ever had to deal with, I am of value just because I am, rather than because of what I can do. So I feel that's a theory I have myself, just
it's a great theory.
Because it's I've seen it with my own grandparents right now. My grandpa is struggling because, and he knows that, and he's kind of talked about that a little bit with me, but he is 6'5". He has always been a big, strong man. He was really into bodybuilding his whole life, has been super fit. And now he's gotten to the age where it's just not really an option anymore. He's still very active and very fit, but there's, he's reached that threshold of you cannot do everything that you did when you were a younger person. And a lot of people just have to deal with that. But when you're disabled, you get to deal with that right away. When I started losing my eyesight, started using magnifiers or reading books with big text, you just feel like an old grandma or grandpa or something. And so you deal with those personal issues.
You're right. It makes you feel older than what you are.
Yeah.
That's something I've noticed.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, I just think in general, people who are disabled or visually impaired look inward more than the average able-bodied person because they've never been forced to. They don't, because that's a darker place to go to, accepting the fact that we don't have a choice in many things in life. And so in those terms of what you were asking, I think do you have to make yourself more marketable? Do they have to try harder? I think in general, you are pushed very hard by the cards you have been dealt to discover yourself more. In terms of being marketable to society, in terms of dating and whatnot, I don't think you really should have to work harder than the able-bodied person. I think you do in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, and that's just kind of society's fault. But in some cases, it helps you. Right now in the entertainment industry, it actually is starting to pick up. Disabilities are starting to pick up because Inclusion's always been a big thing in the media, and so it's kind of finally our turn. So I think in that regard, like sometimes you don't have to work as hard because if you have the disability, you've like checked that box. But in terms of dating, yeah, I would say. But again, I think that you shouldn't have to work harder. And if you found a person who is making you work much harder than they'd make like an able-bodied person work, then maybe they're just not the one for you. Because like, you know, you are you, and you shouldn't have to work harder than you're already working harder than the average person if you have a disability. Like that's just like the definition.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think what you said is brilliant. And you have a great theory there. I'm going to think about that one for a while. But
the theory about old people, or which theory, or all of it?
Yeah. And, but yeah, I think another point, what I was trying to get at was like, I feel like people put a lot of pressure on themselves if they have a disability. Like, I got to have even better outfits. You know, I got to have the best, you know, physique I can have because I'm at a disadvantage. I have to make up for it in other places.
No, agreed. I think I was very much that way in like high school and still even am. You already feel like you're kind of like behind everybody else. So you have to push further to actually like be ahead kind of thing. Yeah, no, agreed. But that's why I feel like you should just come to the realization of like whatever you're doing in your life, you just do it for you. Like stop doing it for other people. Compete with yourself.
Yeah, you should honestly take care of yourself anyways. You should try to be healthy. You should try to dress nicely. Mm-hmm. You know, you should be doing those things to begin with. You know, but yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to do that, and some of it's warranted. You know, it's unfortunate that I have to say that, but some of it is warranted. It's like that pressure. I feel that pressure, and it's like I need to do this, and this because I need to make up for this, and that.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And that can, and I think when it comes to your self-esteem in terms of like who is going to want to date me, who is going to want to be with me, that pressure can be your friend in the sense that it will help you become a better person. You'll take better care of yourself, but it also can be your enemy because it'll make you feel you're constantly analyzing yourself.
Yeah, or like being pressured
on how you stack up to other people, you know.
Right. Or like if you're already in a relationship, you might feel pressured to do things that you don't actually want to do. Or
exactly
because you think like, oh, well, I mean, like, yeah, I'm falling behind in other ways. So like I should participate in this. I should act this way. I should give into this pressure because, you know, I got to do what's going to make me accepted kind of thing. Yeah, no, agreed. That's definitely going back, making me think back to the high school days, which is like forever ago now.
Sounds like you've came a long way, you know?
Yeah.
You seem to be happy in your life and you seem to accept your disability. It seems like you have standards for yourself and, you know, it carries into everything, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's dating, your work, you know, your hobbies. I think it's awesome and I'm excited for you. I've seen your growth too, you know, in terms of numbers and popularity. Your videos will pop up and I'll see the views you're getting. I'm like, damn, you know, yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah. And kind of like shifting gears, but I'd love to talk about like I am starting a new Instagram page.
Okay.
I'm trying to like create more resources for the blind and disabled community. And my page is very like me centered, like it's just blogging about me and my life and whatnot.
Okay.
So like basically in this content creating, what I noticed is I have so many people constantly reaching out to me through like DMs and also through emails, just basically saying like, I'm new to the blind community. I'm new to my disability. Can you help me in this way, that way kind of thing? And it really made me just like realize how there's not that many resources out there for us. And even if there are, they're really hard to find, honestly. Like one example is that I had somewhat recently, I had a professor from an Ivy League school reach out to me because he started developing macular degeneration. And it's just wild to me. And he was like literally asking me very simple, like, I was explaining to him, like, this is accessibility. This is when you get on a computer, you're going to have to go into your setting, or on your phone, a computer, you'll go into your settings, you'll find accessibility. This, like, you know, if you have a Windows, this is what magnification and screen reader will be called. Like if you are an Apple, this is like, so I was like the very basic beginning kind of thing. And it just really was like wild to me that a professor, like a scholar, an academic, that not just at a university, but at an Ivy League school, found me the preferable resource versus anything else we have available. And I was like, yeah. Are you serious? So I've, and in conjunction with that idea of like, I want to start creating like resources for my community and really helping put back in my community besides just like the awareness and the education I spread on my page. I also started selling like merchandise recently. And so I'm kind of like tying it all in, and I've made a new page. I literally made the page like a week or two ago. And I thought of the name literally over a year ago. But it's called Better Blind.
Nice.
And yeah,
it's a great name.
Thanks. There's so much negativity around blindness and the disabled community that I was kind of just like, that's what came out of me. So it's called Better Blind, and you know, we'll see what it turns into, but I'm going to utilize it as a platform to push resources for the blind and disabled that I'm actually going to put on my website. So like if people email me or DM me, I can like point them to my website, but I also wanted to like utilize social media. And so I'm working with my team. I've like developed a team now. And they're just like people who wanted to work with me. I just like created stories on my Instagram and TikTok saying like, does anyone want to be a part of my team to help with advocacy and, you know, marketing? And I had a lot of people reach out. So I have a team now, and we've created resources. They're going to be, you know, the very basics of what's accessibility, what is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it's going to start with the basics, but it's also going to have resources ideally like for are you a family member and like you have a family member recently diagnosed, or are you an employer and you've like recently hired someone with a disability? So we're really trying to like make a lot of resources. We're going to also like link to other existing resources like Hadley, for example. You know, I've actually never used Hadley, but Hadley is like a website that has lots of videos specifically teaching blind people like how to do stuff and whatnot. But anyway, so we've made these resources. Well, currently we have a lot of it, but it's still drafting. And I'm going to use my new platform, Better Blind, to push these resources, provide free resources for the blind and disabled community. And then my dream is to like really have a big business that employs disabled people and blind people. So I'm kind of like on my way. Right now, I only have enough money to employ myself. But well, I
know how that goes.
Yeah, right. But so that's kind of where the merchandise ties in. I'm starting to push merchandise. And when I decided to push merchandise for myself, I was stuck for a while. Like, do I just sell t-shirts that say Stephanie Renberg, or what do I do? And I ended up selling a shirt. The first one was disability, not inability. And it did really well. And so I like the idea of like, you know, that kind of concept for merchandise, not just like my name and face plastered on stuff. So with Better Blind, we're going to have merchandise like that. And it's going to go back into the platform, the company. And the hope is that I'm actually going to work with like disabled creators and disabled artists, and we're going to like collab on the page, feature them on my page. And my hope is like literally to just be like, to be a brand, like any kind of brand that will work with disabled creators, except we are going to be a brand that is disabled creators working for and with disabled creators. And I'm just going to have people like find blind or disabled creators, and I'm going to pay them to collaborate with this page and make content, you know, teaching about their disability, providing resources for their disability. Or, you know, if they're just an artist, for example, like, you know, just paying them to show off their art and just like supporting the disabled community in this way. I know that was a lot.
No, it sounds brilliant. You know, I love that idea. I love the idea of hiring, you know, disabled creators and promoting resources.
Yeah. Well, what has like somewhat inspired me is that my boyfriend, like I said, is a fitness influencer, and he works for a company that, you know, just basically chose the niche of fitness to push their clothing brand. And so so they have like, you know, like many brands do, they have ambassador programs and sponsorships and things. And I was like, why don't we really have that for the disabled community? You go online and you like look up disabled shirts, and I think a lot of them are being sold by people who aren't actually even disabled, which makes me laugh. I'm kind of like, okay. Or like a lot of brands that, you know, create technology or products for the blind and disabled community, they're not like, no one's even like blind or disabled that's working there. So it's like, you know, not to say it's bad that able-bodied people are profiting from the disabled community, but I'm like, well, why don't we profit from our own community?
Sure.
Especially since the disabled community already has such issues with employment and income.
1,000%.
Yeah. So I'm like literally going to have like also... other brands will get like ambassadors and whatnot. And so I want to create Better Blind as a brand that will also have ambassadors, except I think I'm going to call them advocates instead of ambassadors, to help like,
I like that,
advocate the resources, advocate the merchandise. And I'm really just trying to like create a brand that's like for the disabled community. So yeah, we have our first drop is going to be our first drop is going to be the Valentine's Day drop, which like we've been talking about, I don't have all of the final products for that. I do have prototypes that I'll show, but we're having just 2 products. It could have been way more, but I moved to LA, so I only had so much time to like order all this stuff. But for the Valentine's Day drop, we're going to have a shirt, which I guess I said I'd send you pictures of the final.
I'll pop it up. If you send me the picture, I'll pop up a shirt so people can see, you know, what it looks like. And I'll have a link also in the show description if you want to purchase one.
Oh, thanks.
So,
I'll make a separate page on my website for the Valentine's Day drop. So we'll have a shirt that's like, it just says love. And then in Braille underneath it says love as well. And it's just in pretty colors. And then also the other piece is going to be these stuffed animals, which this is the first prototype. There are, I think, 5 stuffed animal variations.
And for those listening, Stephanie is holding up a little panda bear, and it's a stuffed animal, and it's wearing a purple shirt. And on the shirt it says I, and then it has a heart symbol, my disability. So I heart my disability. It's very cute. Very cute.
They're pretty small. I expected the stuffed animals to be bigger, but they're more like little beanie babies.
It's nice. You can take it with you.
Yeah.
Places.
They're sitting on my desk. They're so cute.
Yeah.
So we have the panda, lion, leopard, lamb, or not leopard, jaguar, sorry. Anyway, you guys can see the different variations. There's 4 or 5 stuffed animal variations. So I'm holding the panda. I can also show you guys the lion, and it'll come in so now I'm holding a lion that's also wearing the I Heart My Disability shirt, except the shirt is navy blue rather than the lavender purple shirt that the panda is wearing. The shirts have different color. So there's like the lavender, navy, maroon, and white, I think are all of the colors. So they're just cute, little, simple, straightforward.
Very cute.
Yeah. For Valentine's Day, I thought I Heart My Disability stuffed animals would be a cute idea for the drop. And then the love shirt with Braille. So that'll be our first drop.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It's also exciting because I don't necessarily have to start this platform from the ground up, because, you know, on Instagram, you can collab with other accounts. So I'm just going to collab with my main account, which will hopefully be like a little cheat code. Yeah. So,
I'll show support. I'll support Better Blind. I love the idea.
Yeah.
I'm stoked you're doing that.
Thanks. I really hope it grows. I already have team members that, and the other point of having like advocates for this is that, like they're going to have their own person. I mean, like basically like normal ambassador programs, they're going to have their own discount codes. They're going to earn commission from the discount codes. So I'm really trying to just like create a brand that supports disabled creators. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Best of luck. And again, I have a
Thanks.
link in the episode description if you want to check those out and buy one. You can surprise someone with a little animal.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
To whomever your partner, or just for yourself, show yourself some love. And thank you for bearing with me in that long description of what Better Blind is. It's obviously still in the beginning of what it is. So like
the prototype phase.
Yeah, basically. It's obvious. It's literally just
soft
starting.
Launch.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I'm not very good at describing what it is yet. Because I'm like, this is the stuff that we want to do. This is the stuff that we have like done, but haven't put out yet. So like, anyway, thanks for bearing with me.
No worries. Yeah, I think we covered so much ground. We covered a lot about your personal life, your content creation, dating, and again, I'll have links to everything Stephanie talked about, all her social media accounts, her YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok. Definitely subscribe to her YouTube channel because I know how important that is. That's the most important thing. You can do to support content creators is to simply subscribe to their channel and follow them on their accounts. Oh,
I've also just started really posting on my Snapchat and advertising that. And if you don't have a Snapchat, you really should. Because I've learned from other creators, Snapchat is like where all of the money is at.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Since Instagram cut our creator fund, I almost said something, but I'm just not even going to. Because Instagram cut our funding, and TikTok has limited funding just for creators out there. Snapchat is the scene, it would seem. So... just by the way.
All right. I haven't been on Snapchat in so long, but maybe I'll have to get back on there.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it has like similar monetization criteria from what I've heard of, like 10K is when you get monetized, but then they like that it's actually monetized. Whereas Instagram is not even monetized anymore. I mean, it's just, you used to make money putting out content on Instagram. Now you don't. It's completely up to you and people paying you. And not Instagram paying you, which is so funny that we're the reason that all of these platforms have anybody on them, and yet
they don't want to pay you.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, it's a grind out there. Content creation's it's a grind. It's a real job. It's a real. It takes real work, and you're doing great at it. So congrats, and I'm stoked to follow where you go next. I'm excited to see what you do, what LA brings you, and. I'm thankful for you coming on and sharing all this with me. And, but yeah, I'm super thankful for your time. And I think we had a great discussion. And if anyone wants to reach out to me and has a question for me, DM me. I have all my social links in the description as well. Or you can probably email Stephanie or DM Stephanie if you want to ask her a question about dating or something that we did not cover on this episode. We didn't get to cover everything, it's just one episode. So we covered a lot though. But thanks, Stephanie, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
Take care.